The HomeTech podcast is supported by you. To find out more, go to HomeTech.fm/support. This is the HomeTech podcast for Friday, March 29th. From Sarasota, Florida, I'm Seth Johnson.
And from Denver, Colorado, I'm Jason Griffin. How you doing, Seth?
Good. Jason, self-medicating tonight.
Yeah.
Self-medicating.
Little gin, ibuprofen.
Yeah.
Picks you right up.
Yeah. So next time you see an 85-inch TV that is roughly 4 years old, 4+ years old, don't try and lift that. Not with two people.
Taking me back, Seth. The good old days.
Yeah, man.
It is amazing to me how heavy, like, as listeners know, I recently got the TCL here at home, and I had an old Panasonic Plasma on the wall. It was like a 46-inch.
Oh yeah, that's a tank.
And it was like incredibly heavy. So 85, yeah, no, that takes me back to the days of the hanging the 100-inch Runco on the wall.
Yeah.
4, 5 full-grown men breaking
Crying
their
like
backs
children.
to get this thing up on the wall.
Yeah.
It's crazy how far they've come, isn't it?
Yeah. This thing was mounted it was like in a lecture hall type thing, so it was mounted high, and I knew I was going to need help, so we got a buddy in, we lifted it down, looked at it, and said, wow, that was heavy, and then did our thing, fixed the ballon issue. They went to put it back. Didn't go back up as easy.
It's always the ballon. Seth, you're too old to be out in the field.
Yeah, guys, if you're installing ballons, don't put them in the wall behind the TV. The mounts are slim, but there's space back there for ballons. Just leave them hanging on top of the TV next to where the mounts are.
Pro tip.
Yeah, just service. Everything's got to be serviceable. The only reason I needed 2 people for that job I probably should use 4 people for that job. But
all right, well, pop some ibuprofen, sit up straight. We got a show to get through.
Well, what do you say we jump into some home tech headlines?
Let's do it. A new report citing IHS market data has shown that there were more subscriptions worldwide to online video services, 613 million, than there were for cable, 556 million in the year 2018. This reflects a 27% jump in streaming over 2017. Cable subscriptions dropped 2% in that period. IP-based TV overtook satellites as well, indicating a larger overall shift to the digital realm. Interestingly, cable and satellite are, however, still by far the most lucrative in terms of sheer revenue, if not necessarily profit. Cable's influx of cash grew $6.2 billion in 2018 to reach $118 billion, suggesting that those who do stick with cable are paying more than ever.
I bet that feels good.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know.
There's some interesting numbers here. We toyed with including this one. We've done so many of these stories with the cable numbers versus streaming numbers, but I thought that last point was really interesting. Point to think about is we tend to talk a lot about the cable companies hemorrhaging subscribers, but do they really care? They seem to be still pulling in a whole bunch of money, and maybe internet is a more profitable business anyways. We talked about that a few weeks ago on the show, so interesting to think about.
Yeah, I feel like we're walking around with those placards on that say the end is near or whatever, and
right.
They're just rolling in their money.
It's starting to feel like that.
We don't care about the end.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Last week, Comcast launched its own video aggregation service dubbed Xfinity Flex. Priced at $5 a month, it's a packaged with an internet-connected 4K HDR streaming device. I guess they didn't get the memo on what cutting the cord meant, but okay. Which comes with a voice remote. The service will only be available to Xfinity Internet customers in Comcast's footprint and is set to launch on March 26th. Flex will offer access to subscription services like HBO, Amazon Prime Video, Netflix, and Epix. Flex users can sign up for these services on the platform or access existing subscriptions. In addition to these subscription services, Comcast will feature ad-free supported services and free licensed content.
You're right, Seth. I think they missed the memo here, but I'm sure they've got their reasons. Interesting at least to see them. I think we had a really good mailbag that we did several weeks back from Robert about the move to more IP-based technologies. If nothing else, at least we're getting away from kind of dated coaxial-based technology and getting things onto the network. But yeah, it is interesting that they've opted to roll this service out with their own hardware, as opposed to
for $5 a month.
Yeah, as opposed to just putting an app out there for other devices. So it will be interesting, of course, to see how that develops.
I wonder if in the future they come out with an app and they charge $5 a month for it. It just seems like that's their business plan. Like, we'll give you the content, but we're still charging you for how you're going to get it. And,
Interesting. Again, in streaming here, more streaming news. Busy week in streaming, actually. YouTube has canceled plans for a high-end dramas and comedies. People with knowledge of the matter said, according to Bloomberg, a pullback. This is a pullback from its grand ambitions for a paid service with Hollywood-quality shows. The Google-owned business has stopped accepting pitches for expensive scripted shows, and said the people who asked not to be identified because the decision has not yet been announced. The retreat comes in this is sort of a retreat from direct competition with Netflix, Amazon, and of course Apple, as we're going to talk about later in the show, and reflects the high cost measured in billions needed to take on those deeply entrenched players. So even a company with pockets as deep as Google has decided perhaps that if this story is to believe, that the content war is going on, getting a little bit too pricey, and they'll sit back and collect their checks off of user-generated content and be just fine. Right.
I mean, they kind of have a unique platform unto itself, and then they also have like the YouTube TV thing, which does the live TV.
They do have that, yeah.
Which brings me to this. We haven't talked about this, Jason, but we got to think about this. The broadcast rights for sporting events are auctioned off, right? Those are like the contracts come due, right? You know when they come due?
I don't.
2022. So
CBS, is that right?
CBS has the rights to 2022. So if
now,
YouTube is smart,
is this for like several major sports, or like how does this work? They've got the rights for.
Oh, I thought you only would interested in American football. So
well,
CBS is.
I mean, other people listen to the show though.
Right. So CBS is American Football League, has rights to a bunch of different types of game, including the Super Bowl through 2021.
Interesting.
Now,
okay.
Imagine if 2022, the Super Bowl LVI, I guess. What that would be.
Roman numerals.
Who knows what that is? What if that goes to YouTube? Like, what if YouTube says, "Yeah, we'll pay for that"? And since we didn't buy all these $1 billion worth of new shows back in
keeping the powder dry.
Yeah. What if they're keeping their powder dry, Jason, and they're ready to strike in 2021, and they win this auction? What are you going to do if you want to watch the Super Bowl and you've got to break out some kind of streaming service to watch it?
Wow, that really would be a sign of the times, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You couldn't watch the Super Bowl on a major broadcast network. That's when the game has really changed, because sports are still really one of the last big holdouts for more traditional broadcast people. It's still, you got to jump through some hoops. It's getting a lot better with streaming, but sports are still tough. So I don't know. Interesting speculation. You heard it here first.
Yeah, well, I kind of heard it on somebody else talking about it, but it's one of those things like, oh yeah, sport. People love sports still. Like, it's not going anywhere. And to get these broadcasting rights, these are very lucrative, and they cost billions of dollars to acquire the broadcasting rights. And of course, you get billions of dollars in ad revenue going back into it. So, how is a company like CBS going to compete with a company like Apple or YouTube, or if you sit back and think about it, like, they've got to be really getting nervous about how this kind of goes down here in the next couple of years. I mean, this is right around the corner. This is going to be here before you and I know it.
It really is. It really is. Well, that will be interesting. Definitely keep an eye out for that. Like you said, it'll be here before you know it. So for now, Seth, I'm going to go ahead and enjoy my football over the air with my Tableau, which is working great.
Awesome.
What little football I get to watch these days, that is. Go Broncos. And we'll cross that bridge when we get there, as they say.
Right. Dish Network is upping its game even higher in the custom integration space with the announcement of a new reoccurring monthly revenue incentive program as part of the Dish Custom Integration Program. The new RMR benefit is an additive to the existing margins available for custom integrators. Effective immediately, the new incentive will be applied to purchased accounts through the Dish Custom Integration Program. Qualifying accounts must have at least 3 Dish set-top boxes, including the Hopper 3 in America's top 200 programming packages or above. I don't know what any of that means, but I guess it sounds good if you're a Dish Network installer, right?
Yeah. I included this one because I think it's always interesting to see companies like Dish who are paying special attention to the custom installation channel. I think sort of self-serving, of course, you and I working in that channel. I always think it's cool to see that. I know that Xfinity has their CI program. I forget if that's the official name or not, but I think it's a great thing for home technology professionals and more importantly for their clients. Like I know when I was out in the field still doing integration work, one of the biggest pain points that we would have to deal with was coordinating with the cable company or the satellite provider. It was always a headache and it always created a lot of back and forth. And, the client, unfortunately, would always have to be involved in that because we were not empowered to do any of that in their name. So always enjoy seeing these things. And it looks like Dish is continuing to make some investments there. So good for them.
Yep. And the big news this week, Jason, is we need to call our podcast. We need to rename it. We'll call it the HomeTech Plus Podcast.
I like that.
Yeah. Evidently, that's
good ring to it.
Around. So this week, on Monday, actually, Apple had a special event, and I had it on in the background and was kind of paying attention to it on and off. They announced
Did you see Big Bird?
I did not see Big Bird. I don't know where that screenshot came from. I don't even think that was.
I thought Big Bird was there. Was Big Bird not there?
I have no idea.
Oprah was there.
This is how much I saw Oprah, but this is how much I was paying attention. I didn't see Big Bird, and I should have seen Big Bird. But what was interesting about this is this is Apple's unveiling of their services that we've been hearing so much about, and not only we'll get to the Apple TV stuff too, but they also launched a news subscription thing. They launched a magazine subscription thing, and they launched a credit card, an Apple credit card.
Yeah, that one kind of threw me for a loop.
Baffling. But I guess it's good. They have access to billions of customers or millions of customers. I'm not sure how that works, but billions of devices that they can run Apple Pay through. So I guess it makes sense that they team up and do a physical credit card type thing. I think they teamed up with Goldman Sachs on that one, which was interesting. But, sleeping through all that, we finally get to the meat of the conversation and get into I think the first thing they introduced was this new Apple TV app and what they called Apple TV channels, which will be coming later this year, sometime, I think in May. Jason, we've talked about the Apple TV app a number of times in the past. I think you're a user of it, if I'm not.
Yeah, occasionally we do use it. It's not our sort of input zero, as we like to say here. It's not our default.
Yeah.
We typically find ourselves switching back and forth between apps. I'm not sure why. We don't give that a lot of conscious thought. It's just kind of how we use it. But yeah, every now and then I'll open the Apple TV app and use it as a nice sort of universal search to search for a given show across multiple apps. But yeah, it's just never. It's always felt like it's kind of missing something for me for it to really become the default.
Well,
you know what I mean?
It's good. It's good that you don't like it. I mean, you're not invested in the interface and everything because they're changing it up a little bit to where it. When I saw the screenshots and saw what they were showing off, it seemed like it was more like the Netflix look and feel to it. Maybe with a little bit of more Apple flair. I don't know. It'll get updated. We're all going to get it, and it just seems like one of those generic media aggregation apps.
Right.
But being Apple, they're integrating what they're calling Apple channels into it, which is, I guess, see, this is where things get confusing because Apple channels, I think, is going to be a paid service, just like the movies and the news and the magazine subscription thing. So Apple channels is basically what you get if you go to Amazon. I think Amazon has a very similar program where you can get stars and epics and that kind of thing. So you get the premium channels, and I think they have a couple of children's channels along with it. I want to say there were 30 channels they showed up on this slide, and a couple of them look interesting. Not not too many to me, but they did have like, you did have the ability to like utilize those, that your search, your general search, that you could go through and kind of like, if you wanted to watch something, you can get it at any point in time. And that I thought was pretty interesting, how they would be doing that.
Yeah, my understanding is that the like you said, the channels. So they're updating the Apple TV app in general, right? And in addition, part of that update is the addition of this new channels functionality.
Right.
So if you're trying to sort of figure out how these pieces fit together,
very confusing.
Yeah, it is a little bit confusing. The channels, like you said, is very similar to what Amazon does, where you can go into the Prime Video app and subscribe to other streaming services from right within the Prime app. So you don't have to, for example, like Apple's Channels app is going to have content from CBS, Cinemax, Comedy Central, HBO, Showtime, Stars, Epix. And whereas, today you've needed to have like the Showtime app installed on the Apple TV in order for the Apple TV app to then pull in that content. Moving forward, you basically just go right into the TV app, activate Showtime, Apple takes a cut of that revenue, and then that content lives right within, natively, I guess, so to speak.
Well,
within the Apple TV app.
I will be doing this for HBO because their app is absolutely garbage. So if I can use the Apple TV app for HBO now, then HBO now, sorry, you're going to be paying Apple for their cut because they have a better app.
Yeah, it's tough. I do wonder about it from the perspective of companies like HBO, where they have to give away that revenue. But I guess for them, it's kind of a leverage. Apple has some leverage there, and ultimately, I suppose the goal or the hope for people like HBO is that they'll sell enough more of these subscriptions to offset, that revenue share that they're going to have to give up. But that is the key difference, as I understand it. Again, you'll have all of that content more natively integrated into the Apple TV app so that you don't have to go take that extra step of installing those additional apps on your TV. It's also going to have features like Up Next and For You, of course, using machine learning, like everybody's, that's the thing now, right? So it'll have its own sort of learning algorithms to make recommendations. They're touting that a little bit. I would consider that almost table stakes at this point. It is set to hit the Apple TVs in May. And then I think, Seth, to me, the most interesting part by far of this whole release is that the new Apple TV app is not just going to be available on Apple TVs. It's going to be available on smart TVs from like Samsung, LG, Sony, Vizio. It'll be available on Roku devices. Even Amazon Fire TV is listed. So this is really a departure for Apple from their traditional strategies of really keeping everything bundled within their hardware ecosystem, more or less, is how they've generally approached things. And so to see this Apple TV app now go out and be available on Roku or these other devices is very interesting. And I think it definitely is kind of a watershed moment for Apple, really changing to a different model when it comes to this distribution.
Yeah, we were talking about this a little bit before the show, and I had seen some of the beta stuff go by. And I've got to confirm this for myself, but I think they released a software update for remember the old Apple TV, like the Gen 2 or 3, I don't know, the little square
Gen
one,
3,
the little pancake one that
I've still got one of those.
There you go.
Workhorse in one of our bedrooms.
You are it looks like you're gonna need an Apple TV app on there now. Like, so
that's what you were telling me.
They're going way back to make sure that the Apple TV app shows up on as many devices as possible. And being built into like TVs and everything. I mean, that's just smart, but I mean, it's smart in the fact that Apple is doing it, but I mean, other companies have been doing that for years, right? Like, so Amazon, Netflix, they've all been built into my LG TV for a number of years. All this does is kind of like kick the legs out from underneath the Apple TV hardware that they sell today for most users. Like, if you don't need AirPlay, if you don't need photos showing up there, a photo screensaver and that kind of thing, maybe the Apple TV app is just load it up on your TV and go with it there. I think that'd be a pretty good thing.
Right. So it's very interesting, and we'll definitely continue to keep our listeners updated on that. Again, it's supposed to be out in May. Here we are almost in April. Can't believe 2019, Seth, almost 25% over.
Yeah.
Almost through the quarter. So time moves fast, of course, and that'll be available before we know it. And we'll look forward to seeing that out in the wild. The other big announcement, of course, is Apple TV Plus, as you alluded to. And again, this is where things get, I think, a little bit confusing. I admittedly don't fully understand if Apple TV Plus is going to be a totally different app on the Apple TV, or if it's going to be something that kind of gets turned on within the Apple TV app, but it is a separate subscription service. That much I know. And it is very much focused on the original content side of the equation. And we've heard a lot of talk and a lot, the rumor mill about this has been circulating for quite some time. And so it was good to finally get that out in the wild. They're really staking their claim on, let's see, what do they say? This is from the Apple newsroom. Apple today announced Apple TV Plus, the new home for the world's most creative storytellers, featuring exclusive original shows, movies, and documentaries coming this fall. They've got Oprah Winfrey, Steven Spielberg, Jennifer Aniston, Reese Witherspoon, Octavia Spencer, J.J. Abrams, M. Night Shyamalan, and more. They've got a bunch of those, big A-listers listed on the website. I understand some of them were at the event. I did not watch the event personally. We have confirmed, by the way, in the chat room, Seth, that Big Bird was there. I posted a picture for you in case you need proof.
Just goes to show you how big of a snoozer this part was. Like, to me, like I was like, okay, they're doing TV pitches, and I'm like, all right, I get it. I'll care when we get the service out and I find out how much it costs. Like, that's one thing that was like missing from this whole conversation was how much this particular product was going to run. And we didn't get that. And for me, it's like, well, what's going to compel me to watch something by, well, not M. Night Shyamalan. That guy's dead to me after Airbender. So what's going to,
that one did it for you.
Yeah,
huh?
that was a horrible movie. So like, what's going to get me in the door? And it's going to be how much money I have to shell out each month to go along with, subscribing to Hulu and HBO Now and Netflix. And, do I want to add this service in for maybe one or two TV shows that they have? I don't know. I'm curious as to what this is going to cost when it comes out.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that I don't know what I was expecting. I mean, I didn't have anything really specific that I was looking for. Just generally curious to see what they did. And I have to say, it doesn't feel like anything too novel. I mean, other than obviously the shows that they're going to do are going to be original and they'll be exclusive to Apple. So like you said, if you want those shows and the price point is worth it to you, then you'll sign up. But it's not as if this Apple TV Plus service on its own does anything that, Netflix or Hulu or Amazon Prime don't do, right? And so I do think that the price point is going to be really interesting. A little bit disappointed that we didn't find that out. I don't know when we will. The service will be available in the fall of this year, so we're probably 6-7 months away from having this available. Presumably, we'll know the price before that, but only time will tell. So it does say it'll be available in the United States, and it will launch in more than 100 countries later this year. So
one quick thing I had written down in my little haphazard notes that I was doing on and off, the Apple TV Channels app will go to the Mac as well. Like we were talking about all the other devices. It's actually going to show up on your computer. So you can watch it on your Mac along with all these other devices, Samsung, LG, Roku, Amazon Fire TVs. So I wonder if the Apple TV Plus, I feel like it's got to be built into that app. If that app is going to be everywhere, then if you subscribe to it...
I'd be surprised if it wasn't.
I mean, there's not a half dozen shows. There's a number of shows that they have purchased and is going to be part of Apple TV Plus. Like, it's got to show up as just another tap inside of Apple channels, right?
I would think so. It's not totally clear to me definitively one way or the other, but I would agree. Anthony in the chat room makes a good point. He says, my house is waiting on pricing for Disney streaming. That's another competitor Apple's going to be battling against that I didn't even name.
That's built into the 2019 budget, my friend. Like that's
yeah.
Just start setting money aside now.
Yeah. So that'll be another big competitor that they'll be up against.
Yeah.
So it's going to have to be, it's going to have to be really compelling content, and I'm sure, I have no doubt that it'll be good content. Some of it'll probably be great, but will it be enough? With them coming to the game sort of late, and like you said, a lot of people, I mean myself included, I've already got Hulu, we've got Netflix. Prime is kind of an interesting one to me when it comes to the budget, because like I would pay for Prime whether it came with the streaming video or not. So I almost don't even include that in my TV budget personally.
Hold on, Patriot's on Prime, Jason. So,
so I did have a One Vision partner who listens to the show reach out, and he said he watched The Patriot on your recommendation, and he was like, I can't even. And I had to respond, and I was like, I don't know what that means. Is that an endorsement, or is that like a recrimination? Like, tell me more. And yeah, he was telling me, he's like, it's definitely got some dark.
It's a dark humor. Yeah.
Dark humor. And so anyways, we were chatting a little bit. It's tough. It's tough for me because I watch so little TV. And what I do watch, typically my wife and I will watch a show after the kids go to bed.
Yep.
And I can tell from what I've heard from you and what I've seen on the previews, I don't think that's a show that she's going to get into.
Yeah, it's a slow burn. So yeah, but it's very dark humor.
One of these days I'll get around to it.
I don't think
you're gonna let it rest until I do.
I'm not. But there's also another show, and I'm not going to say it's kind of in the same vein. Not the same show, but it's on HBO, and probably a little bit easier to digest for most people. It's got the Fonz on it. It's called Barry, and it's
Barry.
Yeah, it's kind of like the guy is a contract killer, and turns out he doesn't want to be a contract killer anymore. And starts taking acting classes to kind of like let loose his feelings and that kind of thing. So it's a very interesting show, and a
little more digestible.
Totally a comedy, much more than I mean, it's still dark. It's got the the whole killing people aspect to it, but it's definitely more digestible, I guess, than Patriot. But I'd say as far as the writing goes, Patriot takes the cake.
Yeah,
but this one's got the Fonz.
I just finished watching a totally different note. Wild Wild Country. This one's been out for a year, so it's not a new one.
Yeah.
But it just landed on my radar.
What's the thing? The hot,
really interesting.
The little cult guy up there in in Oregon. I can't remember the name of him.
Yeah, the Bhagwan.
Yeah. Rajneesh.
Shri Rajneesh.
Yeah.
Anyways, anyone's interested in documentaries, like it's a 6-part. Really good one.
That's a good one. That is it gets crazier and crazier each episode, and you're
it's
like,
unbelievable.
What?
You just can't believe this. It's stranger than fiction.
Right.
I mean, it really is.
Couldn't believe it happened.
So, anyways, now that we've totally digressed, actually making the point though, right? Like, there's so much to choose from now when it comes to original and streaming content, that clearly that's going to be the battle for Apple. But they've got a ton of cash and a commitment to quality from a brand perspective. So I have no doubt that the content will be good. I'll be very, very curious to see how it's priced, and definitely something that I'll be giving a hard look, assuming that it comes in around that same price point as most of these other services.
I think it's got to be less. Like, I don't know. It's got to be...
Well, I was just saying, assuming it's in that ballpark, it's probably something that I would at least consider taking for a spin for a couple of months. Most of these things now are month to month, so there's not a lot of commitment. You want to throw $30 at it and give it a try, right? It's very easy to do.
I don't know. I feel like with what they showed, like each individual thing looked pretty good, but some of it, not my interest, not what I want to look at, not what I want to watch. But I'm sure it's good for some people. I mean, but you get that if you're paying $12 a month for Netflix, you can find whatever the heck you want to watch and watch it, and it'll start showing up in your recommended feed. But you're paying $12 a month for that. Like for Apple, they only had a handful of original content things. They're mixing it in with all the other stuff on the Apple channels.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Like, man, it's got to be. I don't know. Like it's gonna be like a $5 or less service for me, and I don't know. I don't see it. So will be interesting to see where it comes up at price.
Indeed.
$30 isn't going to happen for me. I can tell you that. I'll wait.
Yeah,
I'll wait.
no, I don't think it'll be $30 a month. I was saying like, for a couple months.
Aggregate, take
it for a test spin or whatever. But yeah, only time will tell, and will be very interesting to see. At least we don't have to speculate anymore, right? We know what it is generally. We do have to speculate on the price, of course, but shouldn't be much longer till we find that out. So all of the links and topics that we've discussed here on this episode can be found in our show notes at HomeTech.fm/251. While you're there, don't forget to sign up for our weekly newsletter, which includes even further analysis, weekly show reminders, and occasional updates about all of the other things going on here in the world of home tech. Once again, that link is HomeTech.fm/251.
And don't forget, you can join us in the chat room live Wednesday, starting 7:30, somewhere in there, Eastern, the one true time zone. Find out more at HomeTech.fm/live.
All right. Well, no guest this week. Seth, we got to stepping outside of the box a little bit on our pick of the week, but a really, really cool new, I guess, piece of software, you would call it.
Yeah.
Coda, that you wanted to talk about. I know you pointed this out to me, and it does look pretty neat.
Yeah, Coda. Well, if you take a step back, the reason I know about this is because I know about the company that made Coda before, and it's a company called Panic. They're out of Portland. Really cool company. They make some really old school Mac apps like Transmit that are just amazing. Coda was their what do you call it? HTML, like web editing software, I guess, for a very long time. Had a huge following, but editors move on, people move on to using new programs and the new hotness that's out, and they are redoing Coda. And in the announcement for that, I read down and they were like, we sold off the name Coda. It's not going to be called Coda. So I'm like, what the heck is Coda going to be now? So I went to the website that they linked, and it's this software, Jason. This is amazing. This is like a Google Doc.
Interesting backstory. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Coda is still there. Yeah. Coda is like a new name. And I just happened to run across, this is like completely random. This software is like Google Docs plus Airtable, which is kind of like a fancy spreadsheet program that's kind of easier to use than a spreadsheet, I guess. But this, I don't know. This one kind of takes the cake. What it does is it builds everything and kind of folds it up, and then you can get on your phone, and it almost makes like an app out of it. So if you needed to do something with data, like, I don't know, say track jobs, like as project management or something like that, you could load all the job names up into something like this, and then like put statuses along with them and share them with everybody in the company and have everybody on the same page. This is like Trello for like a little bit further, right? Like this is Trello. Trello's does a good job of like organizing basic things, but you could really take this a lot further than Trello can bring you.
Yeah. No, it's definitely, I'd say different than Trello. It's super impressive. I mean, they've got a really, really cool video on the website. So it's one of these things that's really, the video truly is worth like a million words, right? Trying to describe this on the podcast. First, go check out this video. We'll include a link to it in the show notes. Again, HomeTech.fm/251. And, the way that they lay the video out is they talk about basically like word processing. And then they talk about how the word processing apps have gotten better over time, but by and large, they haven't really changed what they do. But this is like, what if we could start all over? And it takes this idea of like a simple type of interface that we're all very used to of working in like a word processor, but allows you to then do, I guess, basically like programming types of things without having to actually write any code. So you're building tables and linking data and, doing dynamic sort of checklists and things like they show in the video. Really, really cool. So for any, software geeks, productivity geeks, certainly like you alluded to, Seth, integrators or home tech pros out there, this would be a cool app, little tool to look into to essentially build your own little apps to take care of some functions within your business. So again, stepping outside of the box a little bit, but really neat looking tool and all free, I guess.
Free, yeah. It's still
amazing.
Free. This is one of those like they're made to be acquired, right? So you kind of have to like keep an eye on that. But I mean, the thing is, it's like all the data is kind of stored in an Excel type sheet. So if you really needed to get it out of there and into something else, you could always export it. and copy paste it, put it in an Excel sheet or something. But man, the fact that you can load this up and you don't even have to know how to do this stuff. Like they have a million templates. If you wanted to, let's see, if you wanted to be in project management, you click on their project management. They've got a million things in here. Not a million, but like, I don't know, 20 or 30 little app starters kit that you could do with examples on what a project management could look like for you. Everything from like having a meeting timer to redesigning a website, or all that's kind of built into this, and you just load the template, copy it over to your particular folder or whatever that you have, and it's in there, and you can go to town putting your own data inside of it without having to know how to do. What it really helps me is like, how do they make these buttons that do this? Like they have this concept of having buttons inside your document. Like you click a button and it adds a new row. Like you can totally do that with just looking at these tutorials or templates and seeing how they do it as a tutorial.
Right.
So really cool stuff, and for free. Like really hard. Jason, you and I ran across Trello years ago, right? Like, and
yep.
And I'd say we've used that free software probably more than we should. We probably should have paid for it by now, right? But
yeah, I do have some guilt about that.
Yeah, there's
the amount of use I get out of Trello. It's amazing.
There's some guilt there. Tool. Yes, yeah. But this is like another. I think this is like a step up. It gives you what Trello has. It gives you what Google Docs has. Kind of like all in one. Like you said, definitely different, but different feature sets, but it can be utilized the same way, I guess is where I'm going with that. So check it out if you're looking for...
You will pry Trello from my cold, dead fingers, Seth.
Well, hey, what do you say we do the show notes in this next week and see how it works? Put you on the spot.
Separate conversation.
Oh, it's the anger in your eyes.
That's a meaty topic. No, this is really cool though. So definitely go check that out. Good find. Interesting backstory, by the way. I didn't know how you came across that. So
random find. Yeah.
Yeah. I shared it out with my team at OneVision. I said, "Ooh, shiny object." So we haven't decided to do anything with it yet, but it's definitely, simmering on my back burner at least.
Yeah.
As far as ways that we might be able to at least internally even just use it for things. Who knows? So really interesting. Cool. Well, if you have any feedback, questions, comments, picks of the week, or great ideas for a show topic, definitely give us a shout. Our email address is feedback@HomeTech.fm, or if you prefer, you can visit the website and fill out our online form at HomeTech.fm/feedback.
And we want to give a big thank you to everyone who supports the show, but especially those who are able to financially support the show through our Patreon page. If you don't know about our Patreon page, head on over to HomeTech.fm/support to learn how you can support HomeTech for as little as $1 a month. Any pledge over $5 a month gets you a shout out on the show, but every single pledge gets you an invite to our private Slack channel, The Hub, where you and other supporters of the show can gather every day and, I don't know, make fun of Apple for launching a credit card.
Could do that.
Yeah, that's really all we could do because there was no
game.
technology they announced. Yeah, what are you going to do?
It's all fair game.
Yeah.
We did have a $5 patron come on board this week. We wanted to give a big shout out to Dean Detton. Dean, thank you so much for your support. We truly do appreciate it. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
If you do want to help out our show but don't or can't do so financially, we totally understand. We would appreciate if you take a few minutes of your time to leave a review for the show in iTunes or a rating in your podcast app of choice. Those reviews definitely help let us know how we're doing, as well as help other people find the show. So if you took a few minutes to do that, we would really appreciate it.
Well, Jason, I guess that wraps up the show this week. I don't know, man. I'm going to have to start saving money, I think, because I'm sure Apple's going to come out with this thing. There's going to be something I want to see on it. Like Amazing Stories looks pretty good.
It does,
and I'm gonna have to. I think
it's gonna be worth a little bit of a test spin.
Yeah, I hope they
kick
figure
the
out
tires.
Yeah. Figure it out.
Maybe
it's
they'll
only
do a
worth
free
$5.
trial.
Yeah, a free trial. That'd be great, and I can just binge for like 3 nights.
They did that with Apple Music, right? They do like when they first came out with it, you could get like 90 days free or something.
Yeah, I think they gave you a month or 2. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So we'll see. But like I said, exciting at least to have it out and see now what they're doing. And really the last question mark is how much it's going to cost. But does look really interesting, and yet another major competitor in the space. Next up will be Disney, and we'll have to see what they're going to do. So really interesting time, as it has been really for the last couple of years in the world of streaming.
Yep, absolutely. Like I said, I guess that wraps things up, and I guess we'll talk to you next week.
All right, sounds good. Take care, Seth.